Welcome to the Uncensored Self podcast. I am your host, Ryan Gillen, and this is a space where women who value achievement, success, accomplishment, and wealth, but also crave happiness, love, joy, and deep fulfillment come to remember that we get to have both. Not by doing more, but by being more of who we truly are. In this show, we explore identity, energy, alignment, and embodiment because you didn't come here to follow someone else's rules. You came to right your own. Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome to the live recording of the Uncensored Self podcast. I am your host, Ryan Gillen, and I am just having a heyday with technology today, so roll with me. Our conversation today is about, are you addicted to success? So this came in last week. Obviously my process is to walk and think and contemplate and think about life and why we do the things that we do and how we show up in that way. And it was kind of like, I feel like success or achievement or accomplishment winds up becoming an addiction, and we don't treat it as such, right? In fact, it is celebrated in our world, right? Being somebody who is ambitious, somebody who achieves a lot, somebody who has big goals, somebody who is willing to, completely sacrifice themselves in the name of results is somebody we're celebrated, right? Like Derek, my partner, still has a corporate job, and they still very much celebrate the person who, yes, they celebrate the good things too, which is really exciting about their organization, but it's still a lot about like, who did the most today? The person who did the most today is the winner. And so that story, that program has created this thing where we're addicted to it. And if we're not achieving more or doing more or growing or any of those other things, we think that something is wrong with us. And that is quite literally my journey. It's what led me to the energy game. It's what led me to personal development, is this idea that there must be something wrong with me because I have done endless amounts of professional development, right? Like I had a 15-year corporate career, hundreds of thousands of dollars invested in my skills, right? I have a master's degree, for crying out loud, like so much invested in my skills. I think we're back. My camera just did something kind of wild, but I think we're good. We're moving. Let's see. If anybody's live, will you let me know if you can still see me? I can see the number. So if you're here, let me know, just because it kind of did something weird and I want to make sure. Hit this refresh button. Make sure we're here. Beautiful. Okay. So I want to talk about that, the addiction to success and really what it is. I'm going to give you some action items at the end of it, but here's what has happened in the world, that we have normalized the chase, right? The money, the milestones, the accolades, the achievements. But what if the truth is that we're not driven, we're addicted, and we're addicted to the high of more, and it's actually costing us something so much greater than we think it is costing us, because again, we live in a world that has normalized this unhealthy obsession with more, right? We celebrate overwork, we celebrate hustle, we celebrate constant hockey stick growth, and we've made it this thing to strive for. And for women like you and I, high achievers, it feels like a standard. Like this is just how life is. We just keep going. We just keep wanting more. We just keep chasing more. This is just the way we're supposed to do it. Because A, that's what we've done so far. And B, that is what everybody else is saying has worked, right? But when we peel back those layers, right? When we really peel those back, it's not ambition. Like I said, it's addiction. We think it's ambition, but it's actually this thing that like, I don't know how to get off the ride. The number of women who tell me in any given week that they just want off the ride. And when I say the ride, they just want off this feeling of chasing. Like I've heard it described as a hamster wheel, as a treadmill, as Groundhog Day, right? Like all these things where it's just like more. Nothing ever slows down. And we just keep adding things to our plate, but we never remove anything from our plate. I'm actually working through this with one of my clients right now. And like this idea of, if you're going to keep adding to your plate, you have to remove. And that's making her really uncomfortable. But that's the truth of the matter. If you want more in your life, you have to make space for it. And that's the piece that's missing for so many of us, because we've become addicted to the dopamine hit of the more. We don't know how to remove to make space. And that's what creates that hamster wheel, Groundhog Day over and over and over again, because there's no space for anything to change. And then we're terrified of letting a ball drop somewhere, because if the ball drops somewhere, it will all fall apart because it is so precarious anyway, right? Our lives feel so precarious. It feels like if one thing slips through the cracks, everything is going to fall apart and everyone's going to find out, I don't know what the fuck I am doing. And that is terrifying. It is terrifying. And I know that because I have experienced it. It is quite literally what led me to bankruptcy, is the fear of, what will other people think if this is not who I am? What will other people think if this is not who I am? Like literally let other people's opinions of myself drive me in such a way that I put myself in a really unhealthy situation, right? Because, and I'm not blaming anybody else, like it's totally a me thing, right? Like I'm not putting my blame on anybody else, but it's this idea that like, yeah, it was the optics were so important, right? The optics were so important. What will people think? And, my clients and the people watching and, my former business partner and just all these different things. At the time I was going through a divorce, like there was just so much happening, right? And it was like, what are the people going to think? And this addiction to the idea that they have to think what I need them to think. So I have to keep showing up in a certain way so they think a certain way. So if this is resonating with you, we're going to have a really probably somewhat emotional, maybe vulnerable conversation about this addiction to success, because I understand for so many people, addiction is such a trigger, right? It's a trigger for so many of us. If you've dealt with substance abuse or alcohol addiction or all the other addictions that are available to us, right? And it's sometimes hard to believe that, like, hey, this chase for more, which seems to be such a good thing, is actually something that has become so unhealthy. But there's a lot of research to show us that stress and anxiety and worry and constant pressure actually do diminish your health. So this is not just about, hey, for your quality of life to actually get to have a life that you fucking like and enjoy, but it's actually your physical health. Like, your physical health is going to be impacted by how much stress you continue to put yourself under, right? Your physical health is going to be impacted by how much anxiety, right? How much pressure you put on yourself. Those constant thoughts of fear and not enough and not good enough and not smart enough are actually manifesting in your body in the form of health issues. And there's science to back this up. But we're like, no, 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 no. When it slows down, when the spring market slows down, after this next launch, once I get through this thing, once the kids get through this, once the kids get through that, right? That's a big sign that you're stuck in addiction. When you keep saying, once this thing happens, then I'm going to take care of myself. But you've been saying that shit for fucking years, right? Anybody resonate with that? Just me, right? So what is the addiction to success, right? Addiction is when you no longer feel like you have a choice. And when I was preparing for this and just kind of brainstorming ideas, I was like, oof, it's like a knife to the heart, right? Addiction is when you no longer feel like you have a choice. You no longer feel like you have a choice in the work that you do, in the choices that you make, in the clients that you work with, in the job that you have, because you've built a lifestyle around the choices you've made so far. And so now I don't have a choice but just to continue doing what I'm doing. So when you keep chasing something, right? Success, money, achievement, validation, so often it's not because you truly want it, but because you don't know who you are without it. Like, who are you when you are not that person that the world thinks that you are? Like, who are you? And for many of us, that's terrifying to face. For many of us, we have no fucking idea the answer to that question. And the idea of facing ourselves in that moment is so hard. But this is actually the work that I've really been doing. I've been diving a lot, and I'm always very transparent with you guys. I've been diving a lot into like personal energetics or feminine energetics and those types of things. And in those, as I continue that study, as I continue to dig into that, I realize how much of what we're chasing is really inside of ourselves, right? So addiction to success is when, like, you feel anxious when you're not achieving it. Like, if the results don't show up, you're anxious. Oh my gosh, I'm doing something wrong. Oh my gosh, something is happening. I'm off. I'm out of alignment. Something's wrong, right? That's a sign you're addicted to success. When you struggle to rest because rest feels unproductive or wasteful, right? So when you sit down to watch TV, you feel guilty for sitting down to watch TV. When you take a break to hang out with your kids and do something fun, you feel guilty. When you block a Friday afternoon off your calendar to go do what it is you said you were going to do, you then feel like shit that entire time, and you can't even enjoy that activity that you're doing because you feel so shitty about it, right? This is such a big one, is when you hit a milestone and you feel nothing. You feel absolutely positively nothing. You hit a milestone that some people would just die to hit, and you just, right, the inside, you feel just pressure. Fuck, how am I going to stop this, right? If you believe your worth is tied to your results, right? I'm only as good as my results. If my business fails, I suck. If I don't get this job, I'm not good enough. When you believe your worth is tied to your results, you're addicted, right? When you need something external to feel enough, with sitting here by yourself in your body, in your skin, living your life, makes you feel like, oh my gosh, there's something I need to be doing. You are addicted, right? So this is not about ambition. Ambition is grounded, right? It's anchored in purpose, at least in the way that I feel it, right? Addiction is frantic, and it's rooted in fear, and it's costing you not only your income, I think, but it's costing you your life. One of the things I've been talking about so much on the show lately is this idea of, we have been taught our entire lives how to live or how to work, right? But we have not been taught how to live, right? We know how to work. We know how to put one foot in front of the other and do the hard things. But what we don't know is, like, how do I live, right? How do I not tie my results to my worth, right? Like, how do I actually find time to rest and enjoy it, right? How can I just find happiness in this moment when there's so much things to be done, right? How do I not feel anxious, right? But that's your life. Your life is being able to take a Friday afternoon off work and go enjoy your children. Like, that is life. That's the fucking point. Instead, we think it's the other thing, and we're just squeezing out these 4 hours to go hang out with our kids. Like, what the fuck, right? So how does the addiction shows up, right? You're chasing the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. It's constantly something with you. And I want to talk about this a little bit because I think it's important, because I think as humans, we're never going to get it done, right? Like Abraham's one of my favorite teachers, and she says this so often, right? Like, you're never going to get it done. You're always going to want more. But there's a difference between desiring more and feeling like you're not enough without it. Those are two very different energies, right? So there's like looking at your life being like, oh my God, this is fucking amazing. And then we're going to grow in this way. And then we're going to expand in this way. And then like that energy feels expansive. It feels fun. It feels good in your body, right? And then there's the, well, I know that I hit that goal, but how am I going to top it? And so is better than me. And I looked at that person over there and, blah, 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 blah. And I'm still X number of dollars in debt, even though I've done this thing, or, I had to fucking kill myself to get here. So how am I ever going to stop that? Right? Like, there is a difference between chasing more and expanding. Expansion is normal, right? It's what our souls came here to do, is to expand and experience this life, right? Chasing is the mind game. Chasing is the addiction of there's something wrong with me, if I don't get this next milestone, right? You tell yourself it'll feel better. This is such a big one. It'll feel better. Once I hit that number, once I get here, it will feel better. It doesn't. It never feels better. And because you hit it every single motherfucking time, right? You have built a life that feels good, or that looks good, but doesn't feel good. This was me through and through and through. It's actually kind of fun. I'm going to spend a little story time. I'm going to ditch the notes for a second and tell y'all a little story, so it is, at the time of this recording, it is June 2nd, 2025. For those of you that are either watching this in the replay or listening to it on the podcast, is the time that I'm recording this. And my parents actually just had an offer accepted on a home, less than a mile from my house. Less than a mile from my house. Parents are going to live up the street. And I'm so excited. Like how it's going to change their life, how it's going to change our life, how amazing it's going to be for the children. Like, I'm so pumped. And it's making me remember so much of when I bought this house that I'm in right now 5 years ago. I bought this house it was actually July of 2025. I'm sorry, July of 2020. And that was at a time like when I was still on the upward trajectory, right? Like I was still having a little bit of fun. It was still celebrating the wins. Like, oh my God, I was able to buy this house. I live in a 6-bedroom, 5-bath house on a golf course. And I never in a million years thought this was going to be my life, right? I never in a million years thought. I remember being in my 20s and driving through neighborhoods like mine and thinking like, who the fuck lives in those houses and what do they do for a living and how do they afford to pay for them, right? And so, when I bought this house, like it was like, oh my gosh. And then I remember thinking, but I don't fit in here, right? I'm not like these people. Like I live on a golf course and I'm not a golf girl. I'm not a country club girl. Never have been, right? Like if I can't wear flip-flops, I'm not coming. And so it was just this discomfort. And I didn't realize that's what was happening at the time, right? But I achieved the thing. And then instantly, what's the lack in the thing? And I can now see this pattern over and over and over again. And I can see my journey in so many ways. But this thing where then it was like, well, I don't have a choice. I have to top this. Now I live in this neighborhood. Now I hang out with these people. So now I need a golf cart, right? So then it was like, here's $5,000 for a golf cart. And now this is how these people vacation. So now I have to vacation like this. Or this is how these people put Christmas lights on their house. So this is how we do this. Or this is how these people have time to take their kids to golf practice on fucking Friday morning. So I got to figure out a way to do that. Like it just was this really unhealthy obsession. And I didn't know it at the time because it still felt so new, but there's a lot firing for me right now. And you guys are going to see this in my content, but I realized like how addicted I was. I felt like I did not have a choice. I put myself in this situation and I have no choice but to continue to be on this trajectory because look what I did. Right. And it's just so fascinating to think. But for me, it looked really good. It looked amazing. My life looked so good. And it did not feel that way. It constantly felt like, oh my gosh, now I just have to keep up with these people around me to prove that I belong here in some capacity, which is bananas now. But at the time, it felt so fucking real, right? Addiction shows up in knowing that you're successful, like tangibly, logically, intellectually knowing, but realizing that you are not living your life. That when you think of how your life is being expressed right now through you, it is not in a way that you would want your children to live. That is such a barometer for me right now. If you don't have kids, find somebody else. But like, who would you want this to be somebody else's experience? And when I think of my children, absolutely, positively not. Like that period of my life, no, I don't want that to be their experience, which is why I do this work. So they don't have to have this experience. But to me, if I don't want somebody else to experience what I'm experiencing, then that means that I'm not experiencing what is, for the highest and best of me and my soul, right? So what is the cost of addiction? This is something that's really been rolling around in my brain, right? Like, what's the cost of this? This isn't like addiction in, the way of substance abuse or addiction in the way of something else. Again, this is an addiction that is often celebrated by our world. So what's the cost of that addiction? And other than, like I just said, not fucking living your life, which to me has become, in the beginning, guys, I wish that I could tell you like I figured it out sooner, but in the beginning it didn't. That wasn't a big enough motivator. It was not a big enough motivator to like just live your life. I tell you, I was a slow learner, but here we are, right? Here we are. And I have to tell you that, that hidden cost of addiction is like waking up feeling heavy. When you wake up every single morning so just overwhelmed with all the things that you have to do, like that's costing you. That's costing you an extra snuggle with your partner. That's costing you, 10 extra minutes to read your book in the morning. I love to read in the morning. That's what I do when I wake up. I wake up and I read fiction for like the first 20 minutes that I wake up. And then I snuggle with Derek for like 5 minutes. And then I get out of bed and I go do my morning routine, right? But when I woke up anxious, I couldn't do that, right? So it was costing me those moments of joy, those moments of snuggles, those moments of connection, right? Like that's what that was costing me, that heavy feeling that I woke up with when I went through the world, and my whole day felt so heavy that I felt like I wasn't really connecting with people. I was seeing people and I was talking to people, but I wasn't connecting with them, right? Like there was no really true connection in those moments, right? Another one is going to bed feeling depleted, like pouring yourself into bed thinking like, I am so exhausted, I don't know what to do. I hear this from a lot of women. I'm so tired, I don't even know what to do. Like, that's not okay. There's so much research to show us that being exhausted is as dangerous as like being tired when you drive, is as dangerous as driving drunk, right? Like, come on. But we keep doing it in the name of, well, I just need to get these emails out. I just need to get these contracts out. I just need to make this tweak to this thing. I just need to make sure that this, and this happens at the cost of what? Sleep? Which we know missing sleep is not good for the aging process. Let's not talk about that, right? But then it's also not good for your health. And then you get in the car and you drive with people you love in your car while you're exhausted in the name of business. Like, come the fuck on. It's just bananas when we really start to break it down, right? The whole you've lost touch with your soul. Like what you want doesn't even matter anymore. This was big for me, right? Like it didn't matter what I wanted. I thought I wanted the pictures that I saw on the internet. That's what I thought I wanted, right? Like I wanted the multiple 7-figure business, and I wanted my G-Wagon, and I wanted bougie vacations, and I wanted a team that would handle all the drama for me. And I just wanted to live my best life, right? Like that's what I thought I wanted. But this actually, I don't want any of those things other than a multi-million-dollar business. I still very much want a multi-million-dollar business, but the rest of the things that I wanted, they were not soul things. They were mind things. They were markers. They were material things that I thought, oh, the world will think I'm successful if I have this. This is an outside indicator of how successful I am. Look at my car, look at my vacations, look at my house, look at the clothes that I wear, look at the bag that I'm carrying. And again, I'm not knocking if you have those desires. Like I have clients. Like I have one client right now, we're fucking working on it, girl. She's going to get herself a G-Wagon and she wants it. And so there's no judgment of what other people want. It's, do I want what I'm chasing? And so for me, I realized that so many of the things that I thought I wanted, I do in fact want the money. Like that is to be true. Like I definitely desire the financial experience, but what I want to do with that money has changed so dramatically when I think about like, what does my soul want, right? Like, how do I want to spend my time? What are my gifts? How do I want to pour into the world? What are my purpose? And not just my purpose professionally, but also personally, right? How do I be a really great mom? How do I be an excellent partner? How do I take great care of my business? How do I have a beautiful relationship with myself? And then I will work, right? That's what this is really about, right? That's what my soul wants. Another hidden cost of addiction, guys, is you don't play, you don't rest, you don't feel. I remember in the beginning of my work with Stacey when she would ask me, like, what could you do that's fun? And I'm like, make money? There's something else we're supposed to be doing? Like I couldn't even wrap my head around the idea of like what fun was to me anymore, other than like going out and partying, which also at the same time was also not fun to me anymore. I really don't drink anymore. Like I had a beer this weekend. I've maybe had 2 beers since the beginning of the year. Again, no judgment at all. It just doesn't feel aligned anymore. But like outside of like going for drinks with friends or going out for a nice dinner or working, I had no idea what I found fun. Like you guys see so much of me like hiking and playing in the woods and playing with my dogs and being outside and adventuring. Like these are all things that I have discovered about myself in the last 5 years. Like I did not grow up hiking. I did not grow up flying to random places so I could go get lost in the woods or in the mountains. Like this is something I have developed in the last 5 years on this spiritual journey, on this journey of what is fun for me. And so if you don't know what the answer to what is fun for me, like that is a cost. That is the cost of your addiction to success, not feeling deeply. I tell this story so often in the beginning of my work with Stacey. She asked me a really emotionally charged question once, and she was like, Rye, where do you feel that in your body? And I was like, I didn't feel anything in my body because my feelings just got in the way. They were just annoying. We would have time for those things later, right? Little did I know that, again, those negative emotions that I was pushing away were manifesting in my body in the form of being overweight, in the form of being tired, in the form of, all sorts of different things, glucose issues, and all of that were manifesting in my body because I wasn't feeling my feelings. I was just burying them. And so that is a really big cost of it. Why is it so hard to see this, right? I'm trying to stick to my notes. You guys know me. I like to go rogue. Why is it so hard to see this? And I think it's because the addiction is praised by society. The addiction is praised by society. We celebrate people who work really fucking hard and people who have rag to riches stories. Like, you scroll through social media and people who work really fucking hard are celebrated and people who it comes easy to are vilified. Seriously. That's why we call them trust fund babies, and we make fun of people who are entitled and have never had to work a day in their life. Look at me, right? Like, okay, yeah. That's why we think this addiction to more on top of more is normal, because when somebody came by it through family money or through, a good idea or something like that, or something they didn't have to fucking torture themselves for, we think, we vilify that person. So of course it feels normal to constantly be in this chase. And I don't think that's a coincidence either. It's also really hard to see because you created it, right? Not consciously, but energetically. Like, I often tell the story that when I left my corporate job back in 2019, the only thing I wanted was to replace my salary. I needed to make about $150,000 a year. That was it. That was all that I needed. That was all that I wanted. I didn't have any bigger vision than that. Like, not at all, other than pay the bills, and do it in a way that I wanted to, right? Like, that was what I was shooting for. And so it didn't even occur to me to want to make $1 million until I was on the journey, right? In rooms full of people making millions of dollars. And I was like, well, these people aren't that much smarter than me. I'm pretty sure I can figure this thing out, right? But again, because I saw that, and then I saw these people achieving those goals in ways that I did not want to achieve, I unconsciously created this thing where there was a lot of external success, but it didn't feel good. Like, it was completely unconscious, but I created it. And I can absolutely positively see how that happened. Because when I started getting in those rooms and having those conversations and realizing that these were just normal people doing normal things, I was like, well, why the fuck can I do that? Like, I consider myself above average in a lot of ways, right? And I don't say that to be arrogant. It's just true. It's the way I see myself. And so, I created every single moment of it just like you did. But again, it wasn't a conscious creation. You didn't set out to fucking torture yourself. You were just like, oh, that's pretty cool. I want to try that. I want to do that. This feels good. I bet I could probably figure that out. And then all of a sudden you're down a rabbit hole. You don't know how the fuck you got there, right? But what's so beautiful about this is that because you created it, you have the power to uncreate it. You created this reality, which means you get to choose again. And to me, I think that's the most exciting part of this journey, is that you can choose again and again and again and again until you get it right. It's one of my favorite books that I recommend all my clients read is Conversations with God with Neil Donald Walsh. But like, you can choose again and you can choose again and you can choose again. Every single moment you have an opportunity, right? So I say that the path to freedom, which is what we all fucking want to begin with, right? That's what we think we're working for, is freedom. We've just instead become so addicted to the dopamine hits that we couldn't find freedom with a fucking flashlight and a search party, right? So step one is awareness, right? You have to see it. You have to be willing to look at how much of your life is driven by the fear of not being enough. And that's why I talk so much about this work not being butterflies and rainbows, because you have to face yourself. You have to own your role in the shit show that you created. And that is uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable to look yourself in the mirror and say, I let people treat me like shit. I let clients take advantage of me. I let people talk to me in a way that I am not okay with. I let my marriage take a backseat. I let years of parenting my children slip by over this. Like, you have to look yourself in the mirror. And I tell you what, that is not easy work. And most people won't do it. Because it's so much easier to just keep chasing that money than look yourself in the mirror and say, you did this. You did this. There was a part of you that was so insecure at one point in time that you were willing to sacrifice some of the most important things in your life over the name of money. Because when you realize that that's what you're doing, there's a lot of shame in that. Like, there was a lot of shame that I had to work through. Like, I was so ashamed that I wasn't more present with my kids when they were little. I was so ashamed that I was successful and then it all fell apart. And I did it very publicly. Like, there was so much shame wrapped up in that. But now I see so clearly why it all happened. And I also now know that even though that happened, it's not happening anymore. So it's one thing to say, yes, I was missing out on time with my family and not do anything about it, which is what most people do. Most people say, yeah, I wish I could have a little bit more time with my family, but they do nothing to change it. They just keep working harder. They just keep chasing the addiction. They just keep chasing the high. They just keep chasing the validation. And again, there's no judgment. This was my life. But for me, it had to be about more for me to fucking finally move. It had to be about more than me for me to finally make a move and realize that this is not okay. This is not the life that I am passing on to my children. This is not the life that I want modeled for them. And I'm not going to do it. So the first one is awareness. And then from there, we have to start breaking the pattern. We have to start breaking the pattern. It starts with the awareness and the breaking of the pattern. So I have 5 action items I'm going to leave you with before we wrap up today. And then I'm going to give you some reflections and things like that as I stick with my notes here. But what are our 5 action items to break free from addiction? First of all, is we've got to pause the pattern. Every single time you find yourself saying, once this slows down, after I hit this next goal, whatever your poison is, pick your poison, right? Pause and ask yourself, what am I avoiding right now? And what do I not want to feel? And just noticing this automatic behavior breaks the trance, right? Like when you start to truly observe your behavior, even though it is not a great feeling, it'll break the trance real fast. You will find yourself just like, oh, what was I just doing? Like, oh my God, I was so far into next week that I like missed this beautiful thing happening in front of me, right? So I think that's a really important one. I think the next step is to redefine enough, right? Create a new definition of enough that isn't tied to output or outcomes, right? Like if you stopped producing today, who would I be? And if that answer leaves you uncomfortable, makes you uncomfortable, lean the fuck into it. For me, this has been probably one of the biggest changes I've made, and something that I'm really talking about with my clients is the ability to receive in feminine energetics, and not just being focused on output or outcomes, but instead being focused on what are the inputs, right? What are the inputs? Because that's actually what creates the outputs. So redefining what that looks like. Rewire the reward system. This is the third action item I have for you, right? Your brain has been trained to associate success with a dopamine hit, right? And you can retrain it really easily by celebrating stillness or peace or presence, right? Like one of the things that I do every day is I've stopped setting intentions in the terms of money or numbers. And I really talk about like, how do I want my day to feel? How do I want to feel today? And so when I feel happy or love or excited, or I do something I really enjoy, I celebrate that. In the same way I used to celebrate a new client, in the same way I used to celebrate, money in the account. Right now I celebrate like, holy shit, I just recorded an entire podcast and had so much fucking fun. And it was amazing and it was exciting. And I said the right things and I stuck to my notes and it was so good. And I know that people are going to be fucking obsessed with this message. Like I'm celebrating the shit out of this, right? I'm celebrating the fact that I'm showing up and doing this thing with you, not just like, oh, did that podcast get me any clients? Did I get any leads out of it? Did anybody watch me live? I wonder if they're going to like it, right? That's what I used to do. That's probably what you're still doing. But when you just celebrate, I poured my heart and soul into a podcast today and I talked about something that was really fucking meaningful and important to me. And if it just impacts one life, if it just gets somebody to think differently for one moment, it was an excellent use of my time. And oh my gosh, the energy behind that is so incredibly different, is it not? The fourth action item I have for you is to reconnect to desire. Get honest with what do I really want? I talked about this, right? In the material things that I thought that I wanted were not the things that I want. And so not the things that you think you should want, not what you think is going to impress people, but what do you want without needing to justify it? Like this is such a big one, like really getting rooted in who am I and what do I want? This is such a big part of my work. The uncensored self-discovery is this work, right? It's a reconnection to the desire through that lens of who am I? And then the fifth one is really practicing loving now. Practicing loving now. This is such a big one. I'm actually teaching a new masterclass with my clients this week called The Power of Now, learning to find happiness in the present moment, right? And really learning to love everything that is in your life right now. Because there was a point in time in your life, and I know it's cliche, where you prayed for what you have. You prayed for what you have right now. You wanted it so badly. You promised God, source, the universe, you would do whatever it took if you could just live in that neighborhood. If you could just take your kids on that vacation, if you could just buy that thing, like you promised, and then not anymore, right? Then you broke the promise. So really practicing loving now and really finding the enoughness in the present moment, right? But you can't just love now. You have to prove it to yourself with action, right? Go for the walk, enjoy your coffee, hug your kid, hug your spouse, something unproductive, but meaningful, right? That's how we practice loving now, is learning to not just be productive, but to find meaningful moments, right? So I think when I started this and this outline was really around this idea of like, this is your wake up call. Like today is the day you are the youngest you will ever be. It doesn't get any better. You can't go back and change the past. You can't fix the mistakes that you made. You can't fix the times you didn't say, I love you or thank you or no. You can't fix any of those things. But right here, right now, in this moment, you are the youngest you will ever be. And you do not need to earn joy. You do not need to earn rest. You do not need to earn freedom, but you do have to choose it. Because if you don't change it, you're choosing it. People used to say that a lot in the beginning of my personal development journey. I used to hear that a lot, right? If it's not changing, you're choosing it. And I was like, fuck you. I am not choosing this. But the reason why you feel like, fuck you, I'm not choosing this, is because you feel like you don't have a choice, because you are addicted to that dopamine hit, right? But when you start to realize that you don't need to earn joy, you don't need to earn fun, you don't need to earn happiness, you don't need to earn rest, You don't need to earn freedom. You can just fucking have it by choosing it, by how you show up, by the identity that you embody, by the thoughts that you think and the feelings you feel and the way you point your energy and the story that you tell yourself. You get to choose something entirely different, but you have to choose it and you have to be willing to face yourself, right? That's the hard part that so many of us don't want to do. It's the hard part that I tried to avoid at the beginning, right? I was like, just give me the money and I'll figure out the rest of it later. Just give me the clients and I'll figure out the rest of it later. Just give me some space and I'll figure out the rest of it later. No. It doesn't work that way because you're the one creating it. You're the one driving. So there's no just give me this outside thing and then maybe. No. You have to become it first. This is your wake-up call. This is your wake-up call. But what's so important about this, guys, is that this isn't about giving up on your goals. I don't want you to make your number smaller or to not want your G-Wagon or to not grow a multi-million-dollar business or to not go after that C-suite position or to not go after that partnership or to not go after starting your own brokerage. I'm not saying that. We're not giving up on our goals. It's coming home to yourself and making sure that the goals are aligned with the person you want to become. Because if you have to become somebody you do not like in order to create them, it's not going to go well. If you have to become somebody you do not align with and that is not your real, it will always feel hard. When you are out of alignment with your soul, as fucking cliche and woo as that sounds, it will always be hard. So breaking the addiction to success is really about coming home to yourself. It's about reclaiming your energy from the future. You have so much energy trying to move all the parts and pieces about the future, right? To take all of that back, right? From the next goal, from the illusion of someday maybe, and choosing to live right here, right now with the circumstances that you have. Because if you keep waiting for your life to start, you're going to miss the only one you've ever got. If you keep waiting for it to get better for you to do that thing that you really fucking want to do, who are you waiting for? Who are you waiting to give you permission? Who are you waiting to tell you it's okay? Who are you waiting to tell you that psst, it's time, get your fucking shit together, let's go? Who are you waiting for? This is your wake-up call. This is your invitation. This is your opportunity. Are you addicted to success? And would you like off the ride? This is my work. This is what I do with my clients. My DMs are open. My services are always linked in all of my social bios. This is the work. It's how do we unlearn success the way that the world taught it to us? And how do we learn to create it on our own by no longer being addicted to more and chasing and more? That's the magic. That's the work. I'll see you next time. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Uncensored Self podcast. If this conversation cracked something open for you, trust that that's the work. And share this episode with a woman in your life who's ready to stop performing and start creating. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe, leave a review. It helps this message reach the women who need it most. Remember, you're the creator. The rules are yours. And your uncensored self, she already knows what to do. Keep leading, keep listening, keep becoming.